Today, we journey deeply into Pedro Pascal's sorrowful hidden life, his early hardships, breakthrough performances, fitness revelations, and the unstoppable ascent that shaped him into the remarkable person he is. Escaping a dictatorship, enduring his mother's heartbreaking death, carrying his mother's name within his own, surviving 15 long years of rejection, he fought his way from obscurity to worldwide recognition. Now, at 50, he's dominating the internet, not only through his emotional Last of Us moments and Mandalorian heroics, but also with a physique that challenges age and a humility that breaks stereotypes. From Chilean exile to red carpet icon, this is the raw story of pain, strength, and relentless determination. Strap in.
Early life, family love and struggles of a nomadic childhood.
Long before Pedro Pascal rose to become Hollywood's cherished star, he was José Pedro Balmaceda Pascal, a boy whose life was defined by resilience, displacement, and the unwavering devotion of his family. Born in Santiago, Chile, in 1975, his childhood was disrupted when his parents, Veronica Pascal, a child psychologist, and José Balmaceda, a prominent fertility doctor, fled Augusto Pinochet's ruthless regime. In search of safety, they first went to Denmark when Pedro was only an infant, a difficult shift where the cold climate, unfamiliar customs, and language obstacles left the family feeling isolated. Yet stability remained out of reach. Before long, they moved again, this time to San Antonio, Texas, where young Pedro confronted the struggles of assimilation directly. As an immigrant growing up in America, Pedro wrestled with his identity. Too Chilean to fully belong in the U.S., yet disconnected from the homeland he scarcely remembered. Finances were limited, and his parents, once respected professionals in Chile, were forced to start their lives anew. Still, the family's unity only deepened. His mother, Veronica, sparked his passion for storytelling, taking him to community theaters and fostering his creative drive. But in 1999, tragedy struck when she passed away suddenly, a loss that devastated Pedro and ignited his resolve to honor her legacy through his acting.
The relentless grind, teenage dreams, and the agony of the acting struggle.
Pedro Pascal's teenage years were a battleground where raw ambition collided with harsh reality. As an outsider teen in Orange County, California, he was too intense, too unusual, too consumed by the fire of performance to blend in. While others partied, he relentlessly studied films, copying Al Pacino's explosive force and Meryl Streep's subtle strength in the mirror. His high school drama teacher recognized the spark in him. This kid's either going to be a star or die trying. But the outside world wasn't as forgiving. After finishing school, he risked everything on NYU's prestigious Tisch School of the Arts, only to confront the cruel truth. Talent alone wasn't enough, and he stayed stuck as an extra in countless films and shows. But Pedro Pascal hadn't come this far just to stop here. He turned every rejection, every humiliation, into fuel, eventually landing in a tiny off-Broadway play where he poured his soul out nightly before an audience of barely 12. Critics dismissed it, but one person didn't, a casting director who noticed the hunger burning in his eyes. That moment led to a Law and Order guest role, then another, then silence. Once again, this was the grind, the vicious loop of hope and heartbreak that defines every actor's purgatory. For Pedro, it dragged on for 15 years. 15 years of swallowing his pride, of quiet tears shed on subway rides home. Yet who could have imagined that one day this same man would become one of the most beloved actors in Hollywood, adored by both fans and celebrities alike?
From Oberyn to icon, Pedro Pascal's unstoppable domination of Hollywood.
The year was 2014 when Pedro Pascal, after nearly 20 years of unseen struggle, finally experienced his breakthrough as Oberyn Martell in Game of Thrones. In just 7 episodes, he delivered one of television's most unforgettable portrayals. His fiery charm, razor-sharp wit, and tragic fall as the Red Viper secured his place as an actor of remarkable depth. His very next role showcased his immense range, portraying real-life DEA agent Javier Peña in Narcos. Critics praised his performance, and suddenly, Pascal was no longer simply that guy from Game of Thrones. He had become a leading man. Then arrived the role that transformed him into a worldwide sensation, Din Djarin in The Mandalorian. Beneath the helmet, relying only on his voice and physical presence, Pascal shaped a solitary bounty hunter into one of the most emotionally powerful figures in the entire Star Wars universe. The series turned into a cultural sensation, and Pascal, whether suited up or lending his voice, became inseparable from its very core. In 2023, Pascal climbed to even greater heights with The Last of Us, where his depiction of Joel, a battle-worn survivor carrying a broken spirit, won him widespread praise. That heart-wrenching scene of him weeping over Sarah's death in the premiere, the savage hospital rampage in the finale, both stood as Emmy-worthy moments that left viewers devastated. The show shattered HBO records, and Pascal's performance secured nominations across every major award, finally granting him the mainstream acknowledgement he had long awaited. Yet Pascal's impact wasn't confined to television. On the silver screen, he commanded attention in Wonder Woman 1984, 2020, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, 2022, and The Great Wall, 2016. Upcoming titles like Gladiator 2 and Fantastic Four highlight that his blockbuster influence is only intensifying. His craft has led to a growing stack of honors, Golden Globe nods, SAG Awards, an Emmy nomination, and the admiration of colleagues who commend his generosity on set.
Behind the spotlight, Pedro Pascal's personal battles and private triumphs.
As the world applauded his meteoric ascent, Pedro Pascal battled personal storms that challenged his strength away from the spotlight. The sudden death of his mother in 1999 left a scar that never fully closed. He still recalls her with quivering emotion, calling her his first acting coach, while confessing that grief nearly derailed his career before it could take flight. Her passing, along with other setbacks, pushed him into bouts of anxiety. The burden of being Hollywood's overnight it man in his 40s brought crushing waves of panic before major premieres, the heavy strain of representing Latinx performers in an industry slow to evolve, and the surreal shock of being hounded by paparazzi when not long ago he struggled just to afford rent. He has openly shared some of the methods he relies on to manage anxiety, like resting his hand on his stomach and leaning on support from fellow colleagues. On one occasion, he was spotted seeking reassurance from his co-star Vanessa Kirby during a public appearance, and she extended her support, according to Ola. Pascal's candor about his anxiety has also been recognized elsewhere, such as on Instagram, where it's been pointed out that he is open about his struggles with anxiety. Pascal carved out an unconventional life in the midst of all the turbulence. Never married and known for guarding his private relationships, he playfully refers to his Mandalorian helmet as the best relationship I've ever had. About the mask, he once remarked of the Mandalorian, "It lets people see the real you." For Pedro Pascal, that sentiment runs deeper than any script, though those closest to him describe him as deeply loyal, the kind of star who still sleeps on his sister's couch between projects.
A star without pretenses. Pedro Pascal's unshakable humility and grounded lifestyle.
Pedro Pascal mainly resides in Venice Beach, Los Angeles. Though he doesn't own a grand or showy mansion, he remains in the same modest home within that neighborhood. He also keeps an apartment in LA, which has largely sat and used while he's been away filming on location. In spite of his A-list reputation, Pedro Pascal lives with a refreshing absence of Hollywood excess. His Spanish-style house in Los Angeles is warm and inviting rather than extravagant, a retreat decorated with books, vintage film posters, and sentimental keepsakes from Chile instead of ostentatious symbols of wealth. He drives a modest Tesla, a sensible pick for eco-conscious life in LA, and is often seen handling errands in the same well-worn leather jacket he has favored for years. While many celebrities amass fleets of luxury cars, Pascal humorously claims that his most treasured ride is his Mandalorian action figure, one he once handed to a fan's astonished child on the street. His spending mirrors his principles, splurging on front-row theater seats to support fellow performers, donating to immigrant rights groups, and taking his Game of Thrones stunt double out to dinner years after filming had ended. The few indulgences he permits himself? A refined tequila collection for emergency unwinding, an ever-expanding vinyl record hobby, and the occasional ridiculously pricey sweater, one he'll almost certainly ruin by spilling coffee on it during a late-night script read. Fame never changed his core. He still replies to fan letters in Spanish, posts self-deprecating jokes about his disaster hair, and acknowledges his close family as the anchor that keeps him steady. When Vanity Fair asked about his Hollywood transformation, he laughed. "I'm still the guy who freaks out when my sister borrows my socks without asking." In a business full of oversized egos, Pedro Pascal remains steadfastly, beautifully human, a star who never lost sight of the worth of a dollar, the power of kindness, or the simple joy of a homemade empanada. Pedro Pascal's path shows that real stardom isn't counted in trophies or box office figures, but in the hearts you touch and the humility you preserve. From a refugee child to Hollywood royalty, he carries his fame with ease, his achievements flavored by hardship, and his legacy shaped by generosity. The world may recognize him as Joel, Oberyn, or Din Djarin, but away from the screen, his greatest role is simply being the man who never stopped staying true. And that is why, even after all these years, we're still cheering for him.